Hi, welcome to Beyond the Headlines. I'm Michael Lenz. In our first interview with Saratoga Springs Mayor Joanne Yepsen, we had too many issues to cover in just one show. So we invited her back for a follow-up interview. We'll get an update on casino gambling, along with some other hot-button issues, and discuss her vision for her first term in office when we come back. Welcome back to Beyond the Headlines. One of the great things about Saratoga Springs is that it's a city with a lot going on. In fact, there are so many issues that it's difficult to talk about them all in one show. So we invited Saratoga Springs Mayor Joanne Yepsen back for a follow-up interview. Mayor Yepsen, thanks for coming back and joining us again.
Thank you.
I want to bring the viewers up to speed on our last interview. I know we talked a lot about casino gambling. Obviously, that's kind of the issue of the month or the issue of the year, if you will. We know that there are a couple of groups that have been formed, one in opposition, if you will, to casino gambling coming to Saratoga Springs. They're called SAVE, Saratogians Against Vegas-Style Expansion. Also on the other side, there's Destination Saratoga, a group of business leaders who are associated with the Racino Group who are looking to bring full-scale casino to that site. I know that you've met with some of the representatives from both sides. You've met with some members down at the state level. If you could just bring our viewers up to speed on where we are right now with that issue.
Sure, thank you. First of all, there are more than two groups that I'm talking to on a daily basis, I think, at this point. And my job as mayor is to take all the good ideas from these different organizations and groups and represent the city's best interests for the future. And that's what exactly I'm doing. So the Chamber of Commerce is important, and they're creating a letter that is going to be critical in representing the city. The DBA is talking. The SAVE group is talking. The Preservation, the Preservation Foundation as well is interested in this issue. Everybody's interested in this issue. So I guess I would even argue that it's the issue of the decade.
Yeah, I guess you could say that for sure, because the impact that it might have on the community is fairly dramatic.
Well, and as we discussed in the last interview, there's several different dimensions of this issue, and there's many different opinions about the issue. So trying to put them all together into one resolution is going to be difficult, but we're giving it our best shot. And working with the other commissioners, and hopefully we'll get something established soon, so that we can dissolve or revoke the 2012 resolution that no longer applies. We have new information now. We need to include public comment, all these positions from the different groups, and ensure that we're safeguarding, in my opinion, the two most important elements of Saratoga Springs. Saratoga Springs is successful and desirable and special and unique because we have a diverse package of assets. We need to keep that balance. That is my most important goal here. We cannot become a city of one entity and lose all the other assets. We've worked really hard to create this diverse package of assets. And that's why people come here, is because of downtown, because of racing, because of the arts, because of conventions, because of higher education. So those are all areas that I'm looking at and making sure that we can safeguard those in all of our discussions and future decisions that we're going to be making.
Tell me a little bit about the 2012 resolution that was passed and how this resolution may differ from that a bit.
Well, first of all, this resolution was in December of 2012 with the past administration, the city council last term. And what it included basically is that if legalized gaming is coming to New York State, that Saratoga Springs should be one of the sites. And it went on to say, and they thought the legislation that was being proposed in Albany, and now the statute has been passed last June, would include the actual sites that were being projected in upstate New York. Now, I knew, based on my conversations with Albany, that that was not going to happen. The governor and others are certainly going to entertain proposals from commercial operators and look for the best proposals in their view. Since then, though, so much has happened. So first of all, our community's become engaged in this issue, as you can see.
No question.
And, I guess if we could turn the clock back, what I wish is that the community was engaged prior to that statute being passed. Because the other issue that happened in that statute in June, that all the Assembly, Senate, and Governor signed, no home rule applies in this case, which means we get no local vote on this. So any resolution that the City Council passes, any letters that the Chamber of Commerce creates, resolutions that the City Center Authority Board is bringing to me as mayor, all the opinions and ideas are coming together, but it's still very weak in terms of how much impact and local effect we're really going to have on the final outcome.
Sure. And that was one of the things that I know we talked about at in our last interview was, and that even I wasn't aware of until I was doing some research on the interview, was that that there were several senators who were trying to introduce legislation to kind of after the fact try to bring some home rule legislation to the table, and in fact the legislation didn't have it in there to begin with. So a lot of these discussions that we're having now, the legislation, as I understand it, does take into account some of the opinion of the locality where it might go, but it's not the final decision making.
No, the criteria is in the statute. It's all written out. So is the purses, the amount that the horse industry is going to be receiving. I mean, the one thing it does is spell quite a bit out, but we still have the RFA that is going to be presented soon. That's the request for applications. The Gaming Commission is telling me, and I'm going to meet with them next week to try to get more information about exactly how can we maximize our 20% local support. Because even though it's not much, I'm still going to do everything I possibly can to make sure my community's voices are heard, and that, like I said earlier, that we safeguard what keeps us so successful. We must continue to have conventions downtown. I would like to see an exclusive convention business downtown, period. The retail that they're proposing at their $30 million expansion, with or without the gaming license, is making DBA extremely uncomfortable. That's got to be addressed. The event space, what do you mean by event space, and what kind of shows are you going to do there? Will you have dark days on the nights that SPAC is creating their big shows? So there's a lot of still details to work out, but we're getting there. I think this resolution will go a long way in saying to the world that we are now in a different place and we have new voices to be heard, and we've got to include the safeguards. I've since I talked to you, I've had my first meeting with the Racing Advisory Board that I've put together. Excellent group. These are top-notch trainers in the country, owners, both from the harness track, from the thoroughbred track. The Thoroughbred Breeders Association is extremely helpful and knowledgeable about this statute. So they're looking at the statute and the potential of a casino, full gaming resort-style casino on the horse racing industry. Because again, I feel like there's so much of our local economy that depends on a successful horse racing industry, from farms that keep our green space and our city and the country and our comprehensive plan vibrant, and our downtown says they do 25% of their business during racing season.
Absolutely.
So we clearly have to protect that. And how is this really going to affect the thoroughbred and the flat track? So my Racing Advisory Board is looking into that. We've already answered several of those questions. There's also some concerns because the revenue stream that goes directly to breeders. So there's so much revenue that goes on with the VLTs that the local community doesn't even ever see. But if the breeders don't get their payments, they move to Kentucky, and all the horse farms are sold, and then we lose our city and the country.
Yeah, the economic impact is dramatic.
Dramatic.
And I know that this is an issue that's not going to go away anytime soon, and I know we're going to keep tabs on it. But believe it or not, there are actually other issues in the city, aren't there?
There are very many important issues. That's why I really need to see some action taken at the city council table so we can move on with these other issues, because I have meetings every day with other people that care about a lot of other things.
A lot of other things going on.
And as the leader of this city, I need to pay attention to them and spend my time on those issues as well.
We're going to talk about some more of those issues when we get back from the break. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Beyond the Headlines. My guest today is Mayor of Saratoga Springs, Joanne Yepsen. We've been spending a lot of time talking about casino gambling and the issues revolving around that. But there are a lot of other issues and a lot of other projects that are out there that you've been working on and the City Council has been working on. One of them is the waterfront parcel. I know that you have been discussing that and will be discussing that at future council meetings. That particular parcel I remember because it was actually the last open space parcel that we purchased when I was back in office. So that particular parcel I'm somewhat partial to, and I'm glad to see that we've been making progress so far, and we're going to continue to make some more progress. But could you give us a little update on where you are with that particular project?
Yeah, so this is a waterfront property that the city purchased back in 2006. If you recall, in 2003, the city passed a referendum that included $5 million in potential bonding to preserve open space, a director of the Open Space Commission, and then a board, a commission put into place. The waterfront property was used as a wonderful example of the city purchasing space for not only preservation of open space, but now recreation. So it's right on Saratoga Lake. There is no real public access to Saratoga Lake at this point. So we're very excited about this project. The problem is we have a grant that needs to be used quickly or else we're going to lose it. So we have stepped up the pace on this project. I've put together a little committee of community members that are going to be working with my team in City Hall. And we've approved a contract at the last City Council meeting, and we expect to go out to bid in the next month or so for the construction. To actually look at the plans, make sure we're not going to change them in any way, and we have a phased-in proposal.
That was my question. I know there's multiple phases, right? There's is it 3 phases or 2 phases?
It's 3 phases.
And tell us which would be phase 1. What would be incorporated into phase 1?
So we're going to start down below, and our main goal is to make sure we take care of the shoreline and create a sandy beach and some handicap parking areas and some drop-off areas for kayak. Getting kayaks and bikes and things off your car. But we're also hoping to have a rack right down there that people can actually leave their kayaks there. Maybe they could rent a space for $50 a summer or something, and it would be a huge convenience for people. And then we'll move up to the upper level where there's going to be parking, about 40 spaces of parking in the upper level that people can leave their cars while they're enjoying the lake down below.
I know that this has been a process that's gone through multiple administrations, so I think there's a lot of credit that goes to all those administrations.
Absolutely.
I think it's exciting right now to have this possibly coming to fruition now as we get into hopefully some warmer weather coming into Saratoga Springs. And I know that hopefully that might open up some commercial opportunities as well for people on the lake. I've heard talk about possibly getting a boat out there on the lake, and there's similar to what they do up in Lake George. So there's a lot of possibilities once this park opens up to actually have access on Saratoga Lake, isn't it?
Yes, and people have been using it, I should say, light use, but we're expecting people to see a big change coming this summer.
That's exciting. Now, I know another project I just had, we're hoping to have a local developer, Sonny Bonaccio, on in a future show, and one of the projects that he has put forward as a proposal is the St. John Newman's residence over at St. Clement's Church. That property, beautiful historic property, that's been vacant for about 5 years now, and there's a proposal to create some senior housing. So tell us a little bit about that. I know you met with them recently. Yes,
absolutely. And they came to City Council last meeting, and the council approved 2 things. One, that it had enough merit to take it to the planning board for review, and that we are going to be going ahead and giving the planning board the assignment of being the lead agency for the seeker review. But this is an exciting project because it is such a historical building, and anybody that's driven down Lake Avenue looks at it and thinks, what is this? What was this? This was it started as a clinic, I believe, and then the priests were using it as a retirement home. And really, after 2009, it really was abandoned or not needed
just
anymore.
Not used,
right, not used. So the rectory had put it up for sale in a sort of quiet way. I actually toured the building several times with veterans groups. It was my hope that we could create a whole veterans outreach center there. The problem always became for nonprofits, because I know some schools looked at it as well, but for nonprofits, they just didn't have the funding to take care of some of the problems in there to create a usage. So there's mold, there's asbestos, all that's so expensive.
I know there's a lot of abatement issues that are going on that would have to be addressed.
Right.
That is a pretty big project to have to undertake.
It is, and Sonny is sort of scratching his head, so what did I get into? But he's the guy to do it. He's the local person who understands the importance of this historic building. He's being sensitive to the 9 acres surrounding the building. We're working closely with him to ensure that the woods and the trees are maintained properly. There's going to be a little bit of woods taken away with some parking that they're going to use to accommodate the 2 wings off the back. But yeah, it's senior housing. We don't have any senior housing on the east side.
Yeah, what a benefit that would be for them, for sure. Now, I understand that part of the process is going to be some issues with the comprehensive plan, some issues with zoning.
Yes.
Explain to the folks who are watching what that involves, because it is a fairly lengthy process. I think there's a lot of public hearings that will have to go into this if it gets from this point to the point where the actual project starts.
Right, so that was the first step in the last city council meeting, where we discussed it at the city council table. We had a presentation from the applicant and decided that it deserved to go to the next level, which is requesting to change the law. The zoning law in that area is institutional educational. So what we're asking now is to become residential.
Great, and I know that process is going to take some time, and I'm sure you'll be back to help explain that as we go forward. We're going to take a break. On the other side of the break, I want to talk about some of the committees and advisory councils that you put in place in your first term in office, and we'll do that after the break. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Beyond the Headlines. I'm here with my guest, Saratoga Springs Mayor Joanne Yepsen. Mayor Yepsen, we were talking about some of the projects that are out there other than casino gambling. When we talked about casino gambling, we did talk a little bit about racing, and I want to talk some more about that, because the racing industry is certainly one of the most critical industries in our community, not only because it brings people into our community, but just the economic activity, as you mentioned. We had some numbers that came in from the last racing meet. And those numbers would give us a little bit of concern. I think the attendance was down about 4%. The handle was down about 2%. And this was even in spite of the fact that we celebrated our 150th anniversary at the racetrack. So those numbers do give us a little bit of a concern, don't they? And what do you see as possibly the reason for that, and what some of the answers might be as we move forward? Well,
I've met with Christopher Kay, who's the CEO of NYRA, to talk about some of these issues. And we're going to do everything we can to support them. What's good for NYRA is good for the city and the city business. The idea of building up attendance is something that the NYRA board is working on, I know, and I know they're also have just met in New York the other night and talked about their increase in gate admission. So all of these things need to work together, and the city needs to support them, and we need to do everything we can to help market this. The weather is something we can't control, but it is very important to bring people into Saratoga Springs all year long, but certainly in August as well.
Any thoughts on the increased admission price? I know there was some controversy about that.
Yeah, I mean, I know some of the residents are going to have a hard time with that, and I appreciate that. When I met with Christopher Kay, I said, I understand that your job is to balance your books, and you're looking at all different ways to do that. However, if you do decide to raise your fees, would you consider having special rates for local residents, for instance, or special days for veterans, and to keep the rates low or to keep the admissions low for certain groups at different times during the season? Yeah,
that would be great if we could do that, for sure. I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about some of the other councils that you've appointed, or the panels that you've appointed. One of them, a business advisory council for downtown Saratoga Springs. Tell us a little bit about that.
I'm really excited about this because during the whole campaign and all my 8 years serving as county supervisor, I kept hearing that Saratoga Springs is not really open for business. People come here, they want to invest in our community. We are getting so many people investing in our community, which is great. And yet, could we do it so to be a little more supportive to the businesses that are established here both in the process within City Hall, but also after they open. So I put together a group of 15 local business people from all different sectors, restaurants, retail, physicians, everything that you can think of that would represent our city's business community. And they're going to advise the City Council about ways that we can become even more business friendly. And they're going to be little things. I've already sat in on 2 of their meetings, and some of them are going to recommend issues around snow plowing, timing, but also bigger issues that we can do as a public-private partnerships. And that's what I'm most excited about, because I think we have an opportunity to be the entrepreneurial hub of this whole area of New York State, and I'm really looking forward to creating much more of an image about being open for business.
I have to ask this question. One of the, somebody out there may be wondering, we have so many groups, it seems like we have a lot of groups out there that are representing downtown. We've got this, obviously the Chamber, we've got the Convention and Tourism Bureau, Special Assessment District, Downtown Business Association, multiple groups that are involved and take a vested interest in what happens in downtown. Anything in particular that you identify that wasn't being done by these other groups that said, wait a minute, I need to get this other group up and running? Or is it more of a kind of a bringing together of all these groups and taking it to a different level?
No, it's really not. I think we have our own niche. The Chamber certainly has their purpose, and the DBA has their purpose, and they're dealing with a lot of specific issues that are downtown. The Business Advisory Council is businesses that are represented throughout the city. It's not just focused on downtown, although clearly that is our core. But what we're asking them to do is tell us how our city government can be more supportive of local business. How can we intrigue more businesses to come here? How can we set up more incubator locations, for instance? How can we better market the already existing loans that our city has to offer that nobody seems to know about? So our Economic Development Department has a lot of services and programs that we need to further market and ensure that the local businesses are successful, because I would venture to say 70% of our local economy is small business. And so I am very concerned about making sure that those businesses do well, and that our city government is doing everything possible to support them, whether it's legislative issues, financial issues, or services.
I know when I was in office, we had the revolving loan fund that I think you probably still have in place, and we had very few businesses that actually took advantage of it. We were actually kind of reaching out to some of those businesses to say, would you like to take advantage of this, because it was a really terrific loan interest rate in terms of repayment. So I know there are certainly some areas that we can reach out to the business community and make some inroads there. Want to switch gears a little bit over to sports and entertainment, because I know you put together a group that's going to be focusing just completely and solely on that. So tell us a little bit about that group.
If you look around the city, there's recreation and sports going on all over, but it's not coordinated. And we don't have a master plan. We have a rec center, and we have lacrosse fields over at the PBA site. We have the YMCA, we have Skidmore, we have many different fields, soccer fields over at the Racino. So what we're attempting to do, because the Convention and Tourism Bureau has just announced and initiated a sports tourism effort, and actually created a committee and a board that is going to be their own nonprofit organization. But we're not ready to participate in that until we get our own master plan and our own act together, if you will. So the master plan is going to create opportunities to become the tournament destination for a lot of different sports. Rowing is a good example. They're already doing it. They have just bought new property, and they're doubling in size. They're beefing up their program. We already have the second largest regatta in the country here in Saratoga Springs at the head of the Fish. But I think we can pull nationals in a couple of years when they're ready to go. We are a destination city that people want to come to. And those people that are saying to me, we don't want casinos, we don't want to have to be, we don't have to be depending on those VLT dollars, gambling dollars. Okay, well, this is another way to bring economic development to Saratoga Springs, and to be a sort of headquarters for sports tourism, and to really market the various organizations together, so that we have an image and facilities that are ready to be tournaments for statewide organizations.
So many things happening in the city of Saratoga Springs, for sure. I know also this coming year is going to be the 100th anniversary of our city. So kind of an exciting time to be mayor of Saratoga Springs. I mean, it seems like every time you turn around, there's another award, or we're getting put on another top 10 list or top 25 list. Terrific for our community. Now with the celebration of our 100th anniversary, I know you put together a group that's going to be headed up by John Hendrickson and Mary Lou Whitney. Tell us a little bit about that, and maybe you can give us a sneak peek about some things that might be planned for next year for the celebration.
Yeah. So this is our 100th anniversary of our city, when we were incorporated 100 years ago. Not to be confused with, people are asking me, why is racing older than our city? Well, our city was here, but it was actually a village before our city. So we're celebrating our centennial. And yes, John Hendrickson and Mary Lou Whitney are very excited about participating in that. We're also putting together a working group of various organizations around town and individuals who have an exciting opportunity here to help us really promote the heritage and the history. One area that I feel in the health, history, and horses that we maybe aren't doing enough of is the health. So there's going to be a whole initiative around the health and wellness area. There's a lot of people that are moving to Saratoga Springs because they want to create a healthy community. They have an interest in having a business in the wellness field. So I think it's time to bring the healing community, the wellness community, and together with some programs that the state and federal government are looking at called Healthy Communities. And we could really begin to promote ourselves again as the healthy community that I think people are looking to live in.
Well, I think there's no question about it. My business in particular, we focus a lot on health and wellness, and I know that with the advent of some of the businesses that have come in, bringing in healthier food and healthier choices, the booming of our farmers market, I mean, we really have begun to refocus, I think, and taking it to another level in terms of our commitment to health and wellness here in Saratoga Springs, for sure. Well, listen, believe it or not, we have run out of time again. So many issues, and I know there's a lot of things on your plate, and I appreciate you coming in and spending some time with us and doing 2 interviews with us.
Sure, my pleasure.
I know we're going to have you back again, but I just want to thank you for coming on today.
Thank you very much.
Great, thanks. We'll be right back. I want to thank my guest, Mayor Joanne Yepsen from Saratoga Springs, and thank you for tuning in. Please join me next time on Beyond the Headlines as we continue to take a closer look at the issues impacting Saratoga Springs and the surrounding communities. Until then, for everyone here at Look TV, I'm Michael Lenz. Thanks for spending part of your day with us.